What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Thursday edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We're a little bit early. It's a breaking news edition of House Divided, brought to you by the Texas Card House. Just to shout out all of the many great locations here in the state of Texas. Chad, hold there. Well, there you go. I was going to say you can play Hijack Poker. Either go to hijackpoker.com or download it onto your phone. Either way, you can cash out any of the great locations all over the state of Texas, multiple in the Houston area. You've got them in the Metroplex. You obviously have them in Austin with the new TCH Social. Play real poker, tournaments, cash games, you name it. Real win, real cash. I don't know why that's so difficult, but it was. Chad, lots to talk about today. Breaking news. We have both Texas adding a coach, losing a coach. I guess we start with the most recent, although it doesn't really matter. They both have happened in the last hour and a half or so. But most recent, Texas running backs coach Tashard Choice, now ex-Texas running backs coach Tashard Choice. I had been wondering about this. Once you start hearing a guy's name mentioned with the pros, does that mean that that's what he wants to do and go to the pros? It would appear to be with Tashard Choice. The answer to that is yes. So out he goes as running backs coach for the Longhorns. We can get into that in just a second. Meanwhile, the Longhorns officially, Steve Sarkisian officially announces kind of what we suspected in the last 48 hours, that Mark Orfe, the DB's coach, safeties coach at Rutgers, who spent a year as an analyst at Alabama under Nick Saban, has spent the last couple of years coaching at Rutgers under Greg Schiano. He now will come to Texas and take over the role that Blake Gideon has left behind. Lot to soak in there with today's news, the least of which obviously isn't the loss of Tashard Choice. You want to start where? I've got a big old hot take that is locked and ready to go whenever, but you tell me the thing that stands out to you at this exact hour as we begin the show a little bit early. Like, comment, subscribe to the show, by the way. Comment in the Specs chat. By the way, South End Zone Queen, blaming this on you. Wait till she gets a load of my hot take coming up in a second. What's the story of the hour for you?
I mean, I always start with the same perspective, and it's the fans. I feel so bad for Texas fans today because we were all ready to talk about an addition to the staff and the staff being in place, and kind of what happens now. And then you have this Tashard Choice story. These damn dominoes catch. If I'm reading this correctly, the Lions didn't actually need a running backs coach. What they needed was a wide receivers coach. Their running backs coach, Scotty Montgomery, is now going to fill that role. So all of a sudden, they needed a running backs coach. It's a team with good running backs. It's a team that looked pretty damn good running the ball. It's not a team I thought of if you said to me, hey, what's a team that may go after Tashard Choice? It's crazy when these coaching things start to happen. So because that dude goes from, because the guy in Chicago decides he wants Antoine Randall L. to be his wide receivers coach, the dominoes start to fall and Tashard Choice ends up in Detroit. It's just crazy. So I start with the fans in most situations, and that's where I start today. It sucks for Texas fans that they're having to deal with this on a day where it looked like things were going to kind of settle. Now it ain't settled anymore.
I think, first of all, you didn't mention the little nuance of he goes to Detroit to coach Jahmyr Gibbs, a player that he both recruited and developed initially at Georgia Tech before Jahmyr Gibbs went to Alabama. And then, of course, before he went on to the Detroit Lions. So, you can see why this would be a job, I think, that would interest Tashard Choice. I see a guy, we talked about this when the Cowboys thing popped up, mainly because that rumor had been around for a while. And it wasn't so much that the Cowboys job was the thing that was being discussed, because there were some elements of that just didn't make sense, including they didn't have a head coach at the time. Now, Jerry and the boys will do some backward stuff. Like, the idea they might hire a position coach before they hire a head coach. I mean, that didn't completely make me think that couldn't happen, but it didn't completely make sense. But I'm telling you, I always think of Tim Brewster. The moment that you start hearing a college coach associated with the NFL as a position coach, really, a lot of times it's with a guy that you wouldn't expect it to hear it, right? A lot of times the profile is badass recruiter, seems to be on the verge of something big. Why this job? Why now? And a lot of times it's because if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And a lot of the estimations of these coaches, and I think there's probably a part of Tashard choice. It's been like, okay, well, what else am I going to get out of this? Am I getting interviewed for coordinator positions? Not really. Am I right on the cusp of getting a head coaching job? Probably not. The one school that might take a look at you is Georgia Tech, and they're pretty good right now and don't need a head coach and don't seem like they're on the verge of – they certainly don't have a head coach that's on the hot seat. So I think he looked like a guy that might want to go to the NFL to boost his resume a little bit. He will be back in college football, but he'll have this NFL resume, little thing on his resume that is just something else, a box that gets marked in the hopes that eventually this leads him to an NFL job. So I get it from the Tashard choice standpoint. Again, from the moment his name just kind of popped out, it wasn't that it popped out specifically with the Cowboys. It was that, NFL job, interesting. Just something to file away. That isn't something to forget easily. And then obviously before this hiring cycle is completely finished, he gets a job. Do you want my hot take?
I would like your before you give us your hot take, I want you to understand something today, Catch. I don't see any chats on my side. So you said South End Zone Queen is ready to blame stuff on me. Maybe it's all on me. I don't see a thing. So I need you to be in charge of chats and super chats today. I literally see nothing on my end.
I mean, you don't see this?
I don't see a thing. Nope, I didn't see it. There's nothing on I don't see one thing. I've been resetting and closing and opening. I don't see it at all. Like, I could jump out and back in and see if it resets, but I don't see it right now.
Are you seeing them when I pop them up on the screen, though?
On the screen, yes.
So you see Cody Carpentiers.
Yep, there you go. And that's the thought I had today, Cody. Of, man, can't catch a break. I actually had the thought of, you get a chance to exhale now. You get a chance to enjoy Valentine's Day and a little dead period, and and then you get you get a couple Zoom calls together with Orfe and a couple guys. Introduce yourself, that kind of stuff. And now he's got to deal with this.
Well, look, I will keep an eye on the chat.
Okay.
There's a lot of emotions.
I can imagine.
Chat. There is a little bit of blaming this on Chad.
And again, Christopher, I don't quite follow that logic, but hey, is it because the Lions coach is an Aggie? Is that what it is? They're linking that back to me and they're blaming it on, like, me and Dan Campbell did this? Is that what it is?
Now, that would actually be fair.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Christopher, if you are seeing like an Aggie plot, then I can understand how you're just going to put all Aggies in the plot. Okay. I got you.
All right. I'm going to have the most unpopular take in the history of this show.
Here we go.
And it's definitely going to be unpopular based on the commentary in the chat.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Can you give me like a countdown or a drum roll or something?
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Ketchum, hot take of 2025. In 3, 2, 1, go.
I thought it was okay. I thought Tashard choice was okay. And I think that the idea of Tashard Choice has been better than Tashard Choice up until now. I think just like with the defensive tackle position, which is just a long way of me saying I think Texas will be okay, right? This isn't to denigrate Tashard Choice, who I'm pumped for, right, man? Like, badass for him to be taking a job with the line. That's a good job. And here's hoping like it leads him to exactly where he wants to go. We always talk about the defensive tackle position at Texas was loaded, that, it started with Moro Ajomo, now a Super Bowl champion, and Keandre Coburn, and then those guys left, and in came Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, and then those guys left, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that Tom Herman defensive tackle well is dried. It's like, Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins, and you're like, Jesus Christ, 6 of them. It's like, are there any more? It's like, no, okay, now the defensive tackle train is kind of done. The running back train that Tom Herman left the staff, not terrible either. He inherits Bijan and Roshan, which is what Tashard Choice inherited. When Tashard Choice showed up, he gets Bijan and Roshan's last season. He gets to claim that he's a developer of Bijan. But, that is a little bit like, I don't know, Bruce Chambers showing up and claiming that he developed Ricky Williams. Yeah, you coached him. You did coach him. But that dude was an All-American the day that you showed up. So, like, I don't know what developing took over. But, Tashard Choice shows up. He gets a year of Roshan and Bijan. And then the very next year, Jonathan Brooks had been waiting. And that guy was on his way to being the Doak Walker Award winner when he tore his knee. But we're still talking about a guy that ends up being the first running back drafted in last year's draft, was a guy that Tom Herman recruited. One of Tom Herman's last recruits. And even Jaden Blue is a guy that Tom Herman recruited. That if you want to look at what Texas has done at running back so far, yes, Trey Wisner, and yes, whatever they've been able to get out of CJ Baxter, which has been an uneven. I don't know. Like the running backs at Texas that Tashard Choice has recruited himself have been okay. They've been pretty good. But, one of the stats I had in my 10 thoughts in the weekend on Sunday night, Chad, was that with the loss of Jaden Blue, Texas does have a scholarship running back returning that averages more than, I think, 4.9 yards per carry in their career.
Wow. Yeah.
Only one guy averages more than 5 yards per carry. And, I stopped the previously intended programming, Chad. You can't see this.
I can't see it. What happened?
I can.
Oh, Clint.
A hundo.
Whoa.
So this is how we do the super chats today.
Come on, Clint.
Oh, man. Clint, very sorry to hear about the loss of my friend. Please send this to his family or whatever donations are being accepted for his family. We're all here, Hookem family. We are all Hookem family. Clint, he was a Hookem family. He was, I don't know how much I'm supposed to say, Chad. Like, I haven't seen any public announcements, although my cousin yesterday immediately went to Facebook and put it out. So, like, I know that some of it's out there. I will say it was a dear friend of mine, Ross, who was kind of in the, he was in our group that started the Yak, which is kind of the granddaddy of Orange Bloods Live, that we've had this idea of kind of daily content and podcast kind of content, and maybe the idea of radio, but brought in a different format. And we've always been trying to tackle it and figure out, well, he was a part of our small group that got the Yak started back in the day. He was on Orange Bloods. he was a big fan of everything that we did. He had been dealing with a lot, and I don't know yet I haven't heard anything about services or exactly what's going to take place. But thank you, Clint, for the incredibly kind words. We did not do a show yesterday. I think I was basically on the phone or about to be on the phone with Chad, and literally was like, dang, Chad, I just literally found out one of my best friends in the world took his own life. So it's been a tough last 27, I don't know, last 24 plus hours. But thank you for the kind words, Clint. And no, it's I've seen better days. And kind of wish your $100 super chat had been about something silly, like a buy or sell question involving a hot woman or something. But yeah, no, it's been a tough last couple of days. And Clint, I do appreciate you though, thinking of all of us. That's awfully nice of you.
Yeah. And as we go over the top of 12 o'clock here, when we normally would start House Divided, we'll just reset real quick. We started about 15 minutes earlier with these big stories today. It was going to be one big story, just kind of finishing up the safeties coach thing. That did happen. Mark Orfe is the new safeties coach, the guy with the Saban connection, the guy from Rutgers, the guy who went to North Shore. He's going to be the new safeties coach. That's the positive side. Negative side, if you're a Longhorn fan, the news this morning that Tashard Choice lets the staff know he's going to the NFL, not D Dallas, but D Detroit to be their new running backs coach. So we're digging into all of that today, getting your reaction. And again, I can't see the chat. So
no, and I'm keeping my eye on it, and I will be good about it. And again, thanks to everybody for the kind words. I hadn't quite honestly thought about like talking about it on the show today, or that sometimes you don't realize when you put something on social media that like, oh, now it's a thing. It's like it popped up on Orange Bloods, and I've had text messages and things. I do really appreciate it though. And it, thank you. Finishing my thought though, I do think that Tashard Choice is one of the best running back coaches in the country. I do, Chad. I do. So like whatever I'm about to say isn't me throwing shade at Tashard Choice. Like that's not my intended goal. I would just say I don't think that he's been spectacular at Texas, that his running backs have been really good. I don't quite know how we grade the running back position from this past year. It's complicated.
Yeah.
On one hand, they did have 1,000-yard running back amidst injuries and everything else.
It's not the one you thought. It's not the one you were thinking of, but it did happen.
But on the other hand, the running back that you thought might be the 1,000-yard running back who did go pro couldn't be trusted half the time because they couldn't solve the fumbling thing. And like that's kind of what a running backs coach is supposed to be there for is, they don't do a whole lot really. Like, hey, don't drop the ball. And then when they drop the ball, you got to get them from dropping the ball. And that was a thing all year long. And so this was a hard year to completely judge. Another year was a Roshan Bijan year where it's like, great job, coach. It's like even Greg Davis haters will be like, oh, there was that year in 2005 with Vince. They were good. Job, coach. Would average 50 a game.
I've always said, Catch, his genius really shined in 2005. I mean, I thought, yeah.
So I think on the field choice has been fine, right? They've been, if Brooks stays healthy and finishes with the year that we think he's going to have, that's the on-field thing. And you're saying, look, he replaced, and he still kind of did, but his on-the-field stuff's been really good. He's just been okay as a recruiter. CJ Baxter is the biggest running back recruit that he's landed since he's been here. And depending on the service, CJ was either a 5-star or a 4-star. He wasn't, I don't think, living up to that when he, had an up and down, banged up and just was banged up a lot as a freshman, and then tears the ACL, and then we don't really even know what he is. This past year, the recruiting class was okay. It was okay. The recruiting, Tashard Choice is an elite recruiter. And ironically, the best recruiting class that I think he was about to sign was going to be in this 2026 class. When you look at Javion Osborne and KJ Edwards, it might be the top 2 targets on the board for Texas. Texas was in line to get both of those guys. Mm-hmm. It still might, which means whoever the next running backs coach is may walk into a gravy train, right? We may say, who did he get in his first class? And we may go, he may get the top 2 targets on the board, or maybe a change of running backs coach changes the dynamics of those recruitments. Sometimes it makes no difference at all. Yeah. Sometimes it makes all the difference, right? Bo Davis a year ago, kind of a perfect example. And Texas ends up losing a defensive tackle commit or 2 because of that. But then you think about who they end up getting that they probably wouldn't have gotten. There's probably no Justice Terry if there's no Kenny Baker. So like these things.
Yeah. And we haven't
what they are.
And I think we've gotten this far into the show and we haven't said EJ Crowell's name yet, but right off of this story, just so you can see some effect here, the number 1 running back in the entire 2026 class is EJ Crowell, and he immediately sent a message out. He had an official visit set. He sends word out that I will no longer visit Texas June 6th through the 8th. And then the quote is, "I'm shocked. We had a great relationship. I've got to find another official visit." So we know, Catch, that the relationships with these coaches do matter to the kids. And yes, you sign up for Texas, and yes, you sign up for Sark and all the stuff, but we know how important the position coach can be. This is at least one young man that's saying, hey, let me take a step back here, and I'm going to change the official visit. So that did happen today as well.
Good news on that is I would tell a Texas fan that probably wasn't going to happen. And
the focus is more Edwards or Osborne for you.
I think landing the pair of in-state, both of those guys are top 10 super blue chip level running back prospects. And it's a great year at running back inside the state of Texas. It's one of those weird years.
And Crowell's from Alabama. For people, I didn't say it. Yes. Crowell is Alabama. Yeah.
Yes. Out-of-state guy. And so I think, every once in a while, there are just these years where you almost have to select. It's like, man, you better select right. Some years there's not a lot of talent and everybody's just recruiting the same guy. So it's not about selecting. There's not that many guys. So you go after, the guys. This year at running back, there's like half dozen guys who are top 10, top 15 caliber players and prospects in the state of Texas. So, you're not going after all of them, and you have to somewhat prioritize a few, and Texas has had to do that, and they have prioritized Edwards and Osborne, and both of those guys seem okay with the idea of, I think Texas is their leader right now. As this news today comes out, Texas was heavy leaders for both of those guys. Will this change that? We'll have to see. Maybe. I mean, look, the one thing, Tashard Choice is a great recruiter. I don't think his level of recruiter had paid off yet. Really. Like, there will be people who will point to CJ Baxter and will say that was big time proof of how good of a job of a recruiter he is. And it's like, okay, well, maybe. But like, I personally never quite thought CJ Baxter was like a 5-star level guy. And most of the recruiting services, when it was all said and done, pretty much agreed. I think one service did have CJ Baxter there, maybe 2. I'd have to go back and look. But, yes, it was an example of that. But because Baxter hasn't really taken off yet, it's hard. I just don't know. There's not, and I guess you could say Trey Wisner to a certain extent, although I don't know that we know what Trey Wisner is yet. 1,000-yard back, yes. Is he? What does that mean, though? I don't know that we know what that means. We could spend the entire show doing the question of what do we think Trey Wisner is? How good do we think he is? So I don't know. Like I look at Tashard Choice and Chad, he'll exit Texas, and I'll end up thinking he's better than what Texas got out of him. That I think he is an elite coach and is an elite recruiter, but I don't know that he had done the thing yet as an elite recruiter that we would all go, oh, now, again, we could go back and forth over CJ Baxter. I've been pretty consistent on my CJ Baxter takes. And the fact of the matter is he's both been hurt, but also kind of unproductive when not hurt. Less than 3.8 yards per carry as a freshman in half of his games when he wasn't not playing. So, just hard to gauge exactly what he is. And the best guys that we would say at Texas anyway, that he's had were all guys that he didn't recruit. So, he did a really good job. I think Texas had one of the best running back coaches in the country, and that's what they'll look to replace. They'll look to find a guy at that level. And Chad, we had this conversation 2 days ago, or Monday, I guess. We were just talking about the idea of what's next for Texas at the DB's coach. And I said, what you want to be able to do is to come out of these jobs and say, we elevated and we're better than we were before the initial change occurred. And I think there'll be a lot of Longhorn fans that will think, well, that'll be easy with Blake Gideon. And my message on Monday was, don't be so sure to say that he was a better recruiter than people gave him credit for. And his position group did a good job, certainly this past season. Maybe the opposite is slightly true of Tashard Choice. It's, it'll be impossible to find someone that can do what Tashard Choice did. And I would say, well, no, you can find other coaches that can do both good jobs as recruiters, because he didn't do a great job. He did a really good job. And then he did a really good job as a coach. You can find that. There wasn't anything that he did that can't be replicated. So, I think that, I guess I'm not as alarmed and overwhelmed at there are reactions. And I see James with a super chat, and we'll go to that in a second. But James, Chad, there obviously are reactions where, look, man, I'll come back to James in a second, but Sandman, hey man, sometimes one word and simple is sweet. And, there is that reaction. I'm just telling Longhorn fans, I'm not trying to be I'm not going out of my way to be voice of reason guy. And I'm not even trying to go out of I'm just telling you, my initial reaction has been kind of consistently, I've been waiting to see the special version of either the coaching or the recruiting, and we didn't quite get that. That's all I'm saying. So, you can find a coach who at the end of next season has running backs with fumble problems.
Yeah. I don't think that should be the bar.
No, but you can. So, again, I think Tashard Choice really, really good. I don't know that we got the best versions of his development, the best versions of and maybe Jonathan Brooks again was going to be it. And we missed kind of what could have been the glowing moment of his career, is if he ends up with the season, then I think we probably change that statement slightly. But we certainly didn't get the awesome, we've never seen that level of recruiting before. I think he was about to do that. I think this recruiting class was about to be it, and now he's gone, and what he was about to do doesn't matter. Maybe what he was about to do with this 2025 group on the field was about to be the best that he's ever done, but it doesn't matter. It's what he did do that we will focus on. James says in regards to Baxter, Saban said he was the best back they faced in 2023. It's got to mean something. I just think it's Saban saying words out loud. honestly.
Yeah.
Because that's just not true. He wasn't the best Texas running back that Saban faced in 2023. That's just like objectively, Jonathan Brooks was the better running back on Texas in 2023. They both played against Alabama. Like Nick's I think, look, I think we know that Baxter has a sea of fans, and his freaking head coach is among them, James. Like, we joked for an entire year in 2023 that Baxter is his boo. And so if he's healthy, Baxter will get a chance to get back in there and have a role. But I never look, and I'm saying the same thing today about Saban's comments about Baxter as the day Saban said them. We were in Dallas for the SEC media days, and I was like, well, that's incredible. And that does mean something. When James says it's got to mean something, it does, but it doesn't change any of the facts, which the data points are the data points. And until there are different data points, he's still a running back that has just been okay at best when he's been at his best. He's been actually pretty good, very good at his best when he's been healthy. But, in more than half the games that he's been healthy or been out there on the field, he wasn't better than we can't just – I said this about Reuben Owens. We can't do the thing where we say that less than 5 yards per carry, less than 4.8 yards per carry. We can't do the thing where we say that's not good. And then when your guy doesn't hit that number, go, well, the number can be massaged. And no. If you want to be a good running back, like a good running back in college football in 2025, you got to be north of 5 yards a carry. You just do.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been that wasn't Trey Wisner even this season. This season he was sub 5 yards per carry. Jaden Blue was 5.4 yards per carry. There are a lot of ways to judge running backs, and I don't think we judge who the best running back on the Texas roster was necessarily by yards per carry in 2024. But it's not insignificant that every time Jaden Blue touches the ball, he gets more than half a yard more per carry than Trey Wisner, and that Trey Wisner still isn't hitting a high mark, and that C.J. Baxter going into last season before the knee injury hadn't established himself above that mark, and those things still need to happen. Like, those are all realities that exist at the same time.
Yeah. If y'all want to chat and super chat, we will definitely get to those. It is a bit of a strange house divided. It was going to start as one of those, what do we talk about days? And now there's all kinds of stuff to talk about.
And we haven't even gotten to the guy that we thought we were going to spend the most time talking about.
Exactly. Poor Mark Orfe is always going to be the guy that, hey, remember when Texas got that safeties coach?
We're going to say no.
Like late one night? No, I don't remember that, because that next morning Tashard Choice was gone, and we were having to deal with all of that. We'll continue the discussion coming up. Also, we will continue to thank our great partners. Longhorn fans, I got an idea for you. How about a drink? How about the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room? Might be a good idea right now with some shakeup on the staff, or just because the weather's great, or just because you haven't had pineapple yet. There are now 9 Deep Eddy Vodka flavors. Pineapple's been added. I've been enjoying it with a bottle I grabbed at Specs. You can go enjoy it right here at the tasting room. I haven't done that yet. Find out what cocktails they're whipping up with the pineapple vodka, and please let me know later in the chat. We're sitting here on a Thursday, and they are open 12 to 7 every Thursday. You got the Friday through Sunday hours as well. Check out the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room, and maybe, do it safely, but hey, maybe a cocktail or two in, you can kind of forget about what's going on.
So we have a super chat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to keep an eye on these. And I feel bad because South End Zone Queen has some words for me, Chad.
Okay.
So for a 5 spot, basically, she wants to know who my first 3 phone calls are for his replacement And then enough diminishing my man Choice. See, Chad, this is what I'm talking about, man.
They just don't let you tell the truth anymore, do they, Catch?
Well, because it's like, did I or did I not just call him one of the best running back coaches in America?
You said
yes.
that.
Like I co-sign that. I think he's great. I really do. I'm just saying he wasn't at Texas long enough for us to see, I think, the best version of Tashard Choice. That, the first year that he shows up, he's got Bijan and Roshan, and that might have been the best job that he did. But what are we doing? Like, I don't know. What coaching credit do I give the guy who inherits Bijan and Roshan? I don't know. I'm not giving him no credit. I just don't know what credit to give. And then, 2024 and 2023, the results on the field were just a little uneven, in part because of injuries. Like, that's part of, I think, the story where we just don't get what would have been the best of his development. And then as a recruiter, he just didn't go out and get the Moby Dick. And again, I think his best running back class was about to be the one that he was about to sign, Chad. I think if you were to give him another month, if he were to stick around, there's a world out there with both KJ Edwards and Javion Osborne both commit to Texas soon. It's not out of the equation that they would wait till the summer or the end of the summer or you know what I mean? Like, all those things could happen. But if you also were to tell me that either of those guys were the next player to commit to Texas and that it would happen in the next couple of weeks before this, I'd go, okay, yeah, no, they both look like guys that, as of today's news, were pretty heavy Texas commitments. Now, South End Zone Queen, first 3 phone calls I would make for his replacement. It's because I love you, South End Zone Queen, and I love your significant other so much, and I need to message her and get a refill of prescription. So it's weird when your doctor is
a fan.
Well, no, it's just interesting, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry, South End Zone Queen. It was Rogue Shop morning earlier. Forgive me. My buddy, one of his claims to fame back in the day, best weed in Pflugerville.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where well done for that connection back in the day.
Where Pville went for their weed.
Oh, look, he's not with us anymore. And I'm just going to say that one of the things that comes with taking your own life is that if your friends after the fact want to just say out loud that you sold good weed, we're going to say it. And it was pretty spectacular weed. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, 20 years of consumption. I got to tell you, a lot of times I've been on the phone with Mr. Hastings and been like, well, I'm in Hyde Park. Gotta run an errand.
It's really how Ketch has gotten through knowing me. His relationship with me is just a lot easier to deal with if he's got that going on.
If Chad ever heard me say I'm running an errand, you're running an errand, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anywho, South End Zone Queen, I don't think I almost feel like if I were to say 3 names, I would curse all 3 names. We've talked about it on this show now for the last couple of weeks. Sark hires at the beat of his own drum. Now, the ironic thing is Tashard Choice was the exception to the rule. So Tashard Choice, a few years ago, if you had said first 3 phone calls, who's one of the guys that you would call, Tashard Choice would have been on that list. So I guess I tell you what, I'll work on a list. South End Zone queen of the show, replacing the great Sam Ponder, who used to be Samantha Steele when she was the queen of the show. Right? The yes. Ponder thing happened afterwards.
That's true.
She was the queen when she was Steel, the queen of Steel, not the man of Steel. I love it when I just make you laugh because you're like, Jesus, Jeff, just stop. But let me think on this a little bit because I don't know that I've thought of, who the first 3 phone calls should be. There's a part of me that thinks Stan Drayton's not a bad phone call.
Can I just be like snarky and say your first 3 phone calls need to be to Columbus, Tuscaloosa, and Athens just to scare them, even if the guys aren't any good, just to freak them out? Like, hey, can we talk to your running backs coach? Apparently Ohio State just got one. I was just looking at doing a quick search catch. Like Ohio State, I think, has recently replaced that position. Penn State.
Yeah. Well, look, one of the things sometimes you gotta, I'll joke about reverse engineering it and trying to, if we start in the beginning or in maybe we need to just start in the opposite direction of wherever the hell we are. One of the things that we know mattered a lot about the addition of Tashard Choice when Choice was hired, that we now know matters even more than we thought when it happened, was that he's a Georgia native. So he played his ball at Georgia Tech. He was coaching at Georgia Tech. He had done a bang-up job recruiting and developing because Jahmyr Gibbs, his freshman year at Georgia Tech, happens, while Choice is still there. So he had both kind of the opposite at Georgia Tech that he did at Texas. At Georgia Tech, as he was on the way out the door, you would say, that evaluation of Choice was his best recruitment of Gibbs, because Gibbs had been a national top 75 type running back, not a super blue chip, but pretty close. And that guy was in the beginning of a career that obviously has him as one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. I'm sure for both of them, the reunion of Choice and Gibbs in Detroit will be one of the blessings of that job for both of them. This will be for Gibbs a chance to play again with the guy that recruited, and kind of, Choice has been pretty open about, like, Choice is my guy. Gibbs, that is. And, I think that Choice, kind of the same thing. Like, he's got a soft spot in his heart for Gibbs, knowing that Gibbs was both his first big-time recruit, so the guy that kind of put him on the map. But he's from Georgia. What did we see Texas do? They lose Kenny Baker and they lose
Bo Davis.
Bo Davis, and they hire Kenny Baker, and we know in real time we didn't know how big of a deal it was, because we didn't realize just how strong of a continued attack Texas would want to make on the state of Georgia in recruiting, but we've continued to see that in the 2025 class. So I'm not saying that the next running backs coach is going to be somebody with Georgia experience, but what I'm saying is, when we look at Ofe here, and we looked at some of the other running back coaches that were thought to be candidates, guys that probably had interviews or discussions on some level with Steve Sarkisian over the course of the last half week, there was an obvious recruiting tie connection where it was like, oh, well, he's a former North Shore guy, and Texas could be better in Houston. They could definitely be better at North Shore. You looked at Kenny Baker and you go, well, he's from Georgia. And while we didn't know that was, like I said, going to be a big deal, it's turned out to be kind of a big deal. When he hired Chris Jackson, we went, where did he go to high school? Oh, he went to the most important, maybe the single most important out-of-state high school, certainly in the state of California, but maybe in all of the out-of-state realm. He's from that high school. So as the names start to materialize, South End Zone Queen, what I would say is put your Encyclopedia Brown hat on and find a guy who checks a box somewhere in recruiting. And it doesn't mean that they automatically will. Look, they might have wanted Tashard Choice no matter what. But we know that Sark has made the state of Georgia like it's the number 2 state in terms of priority for Texas, which is mad. I don't know that that's ever would have been the thing that I would have thought would be a statement that could be true. We could quibble and say, no, it's Florida, or no, it's Louisiana. I mean, we could, I guess. We could quibble, but it's kind of Georgia. And Tashard Choice came from Georgia. Kenny Baker came from Georgia. Doesn't mean that the next guy's going to come from Georgia, but Sark, when he's able to, likes to hire an assistant coach with a tentacle that touches someplace in recruiting that he values, which is so funny, Chad, because will you allow me a 2-minute Tom Herman rant?
Sure. Can I headbutt you at the end of it?
You can do whatever you want to.
Okay. Or maybe double bird. I'll double bird you at the end of it.
Early in Tom Herman's tenure at Texas, real early, when he made the offensive coordinator hire that he made, Tim Beck. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd known Tim Beck going back. I can remember sitting in Tim Beck's office when he was a high school coach on the eve of him getting ready. He was playing in a game where Michael Hawkins' dad, OU's quarterback, now his dad was taking on Robert Timmons. I'm sitting in this guy's office. So I go back with Tim Beck for a while, and he had kind of an interesting reputation as a college coach. And at the time, to kind of justify the hire of Tim Beck, I had mentioned, well, Tim Beck has really, really good Dallas high school connections. And it's possible that that's who they'll want to recruit the Dallas area. He's a former high school. I mean, it all makes sense. He's from that area. He's, a high school coach from that area, blah, 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 blah. And Herman saw that on Orange Bloods and got pissed about it. And let me know, got it back to me that I was FOS, and that in the modern era of college football recruiting, they don't even recruit like that anymore. That, assistant coaches don't just take areas. And I was like, well, in real time, I was like, that's not completely what I said, but yeah, no, you guys do. You'll have somebody go through the area of Dallas. You're not going to send 10 different coaches in Dallas hitting 10 different areas of the city like that. You're not doing that. That's dumb. And he and I argued, of all the things, that one of my first arguments with Tom Herman in a career where there would be some arguments. And in the end, I think Tom and I had liked each other. Well, I don't know that he would say that he likes me, but I think we had more things in common than things that we didn't. But this was some BS. So he calls me out. He chews my ass out about this assistant coaching thing and whether or not having connections to an area matter. Mm-hmm. I.e., Ofe just gets the job for Texas as the DB's coach. And to hear Tom Herman say it back in 2017, it doesn't matter that he went to North Shore.
He would tell us that is immaterial, and Orfe could just as easily end up as the West Texas guy. right? Might send him to, hey, I got a guy from North Shore we're looking at, or a guy from Lubbock. Where do we send Orfe? I don't know, flip a coin.
Chad, doesn't even matter that he's from the Houston area or that he went to college in the Houston area or that he considers himself a Houston area. Yeah, stop.
Hey, I got GPS on my phone. I can find anybody's house. Doesn't matter.
So, it is one of these things where you got to be careful or you're talking out of both sides of your mouth on these things.
Yep.
But, I think that, so yes. And then Herman, a month later, he held his first press conference for National Signing Day. So it was, February of 2017. And in that press conference, he announced, wait for it, drum roll, all of the recruiting territories that all of his assistant coaches had been assigned to.
Were you standing in the back of the room like this? Yeah. Pitiful. It's terrible. That's terrible. Catch was in the back of the room with the double bird. That's what. No, it wasn't. That wasn't what he did.
And the thing is that this goes into my general rule of, and I know I've gone off the deep end now, and I'm just telling Tom Herman stories. But you know what? It's the beginning of the off season, and sometimes days like these end up being the shows that everybody remembers 10 years from now. There was no reason to just get like, boy, you are looking. And I told Anwar this in real time when it happened. He's just looking for a reason to get mad at me. This is, because sometimes, Chad, you're married.
I am.
Sometimes you see that look. You see that look in your wife's eyes. And you're like, this has got nothing to do with me, but here comes Hurricane Wendy. Here comes Hurricane Heather. And you're like, I don't even know what's happened. But what's about to happen is I'm about to get a piece of my ass chewed out. And I don't even know what this is. And it is not about me. So I need to remember that after it happens, that this is not about me. Rawr, right? And then here come Tom Herman just wanted to get mad at me.
Yeah.
Back in the day over something silly, over the notion of, you know what, Catch? It's silly to suggest that the coach that we hired, who used to be a high school coach in the city of Dallas, would help us in the Dallas area. Crazy Catch.
Yeah. Catch, is it related to when I interviewed Mac Brown about Nebraska's run defense the week of that famous Jamal Charles game? And I mentioned they were 108th against the run, and he said, well, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to run the ball more. And I just thought, boy, that's a weird thing to do. And then Jamal Charles ends up going for 190 in the second half once they figured it out.
I think sometimes, my general philosophy is that every coach is just a gigantic bullshit artist. And then if you start there, the ones that are slightly above that, it's such a pleasant surprise. You're like, let me tell you. And one of the things I say about Sark that I kind of like is that I think he's less of a gigantic bullshit artist than some of his predecessors. I've seen
with that.
I've seen them. And I don't like everything that Sark does, but I think, boy, I give him an A+ in that area. Sark's never called me up and been like, Catch, what's this thing about you saying that I need to get better? Seriously, imagine if this is what my life used to be like. Phone call, yeah. Hey, head coach at Texas is mad at you. Why? Well, yesterday you said that the new DB's coach. Yeah. No, the guy that went to North Shore. Yeah, you know him. Oh, no. Yeah, the guy that went to Texas Southern, which is in Houston, right? So the guy that went to high school and college in Houston. Yeah. What about him? Oh man, he's kind of in his feelings because you said that might be a bonus that we hired him because he's from Houston. Well, yeah, no, because he's from Houston. Yeah. He's from Houston.
Yeah.
Just like when they hired Tashard Choice. And look, because I even admitted, I think on Monday, I must have admitted a lot of stuff on Monday, including, I think I threw myself in front of my own bus about who was it in recruiting that I messed on from the Super Bowl.
Who was that?
Who was it?
You know what? I'm not remembering.
Yeah, when you're wrong as many times as I am, and you end up just
Chiefs or Eagles. Do you remember that part?
Well, it wasn't anything Maro Ajomo related.
No, it was okay.
I don't think it was Chiefs related. I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, damn it to hell, I lost my point. No, I was just saying that yeah, we can move on.
Yeah. All right. While we're doing that, let's take a breath. We'll play the AV consultation spot. It's actually good news for Catch because yesterday Anwar wanted to see the spot, and I did the read during the modcast on Tuesday. Anwar was a little upset, so I got to make sure I play that next Tuesday.
I have a thought on the AV consultation spot.
Okay.
Can I give it? Let me give it to you before you play it.
Oh, you're gonna give notes beforehand. Okay.
Well, because look, I was gonna do it. I talk over you all the time, and I had self-awareness in the middle of the spot that when the spot would end, that you would have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, shut the hell up, Catch. And let Chad be a professional and pay the bills and don't interrupt him. But in doing so, I forgot to tell you this really important thing. And I think it's paramount. That's why I'm doing it now before today's spot. It cannot be forgotten. I cannot run that risk.
Okay.
And I think Tom would appreciate this.
Okay.
So you did a spot the other day that connected with me more than any other spot that you've ever done.
Okay.
And it's the one where you shamed all of us who probably have TVs smaller than our parents. Like the whole, hey, have you really allowed your 75-year-old, 85-year-old grandmother to have a larger television than you?
No, you can't do it.
What would the 25-year-old version of you say to the 45-year-old version of you if he knew that there would be like, you just get a 100-inch screen TV these days? You could. It's not like you have to break an arm or a limb to do it. So the shaming spot, Chad, in real time almost made me want to go online and buy something on A&V. Like, because I felt so shamed because I was like, you know what? My mom's TV, because I gave it to her, is basically as big as mine. And I don't have like a big TV that I should be able to, Tim Allen my TV. I don't get to do that. And that worked. Everybody needs to know, shame me. If you keep shaming me, I will end up buying the new TV and with the new surround sound system and everything.
There you have it. If your parents' TV is bigger than yours, you suck. Here's the spot.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations. We've been providing custom electronic systems for Central Texas for more than 36 years. And
old man, I think they all know who you are and what your company does. This is Camilla McKay. The old man believes in big fun and big ideas. He can make dreams come true, so why not dream big? I've been up in Boston, but I know the old man and all his friends and fellow radio heads have been spreading the holiday spirit here in Texas. Why should we stop there? Keep spreading the good feelings all over. Audiovisual Consultations carries all major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And you don't have to leave your house. Just like Santa, they deliver the gifts to you.
Yeah, I like that, kid. Throw a party, hang out with your friends, catch a concert.
That's all fun and good, but can we get back to the business? You can give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit our website at avconsultations.com for some cool electronics.
Oh, now you're forgetting something.
And as always, hug your kids. We only pretend to be annoyed. Watch some games with.
If Aunt Mary's got a bigger TV than you, You suck. I mean, you really do.
I mean, and that's not Chad. It's
terrible.
That's like the ghost of Christmas past.
Yeah.
Coming back to haunt you.
Yeah, it really is one of those. The normal shaming that I do there, Catch, is about neighbors. I feel like neighbors and friends and stuff. That's where I think of it first. But it did hit me. I was talking to somebody recently, and that subject came up. And it was like they were jealous of their father because of the size of a television. And it was sort of like, it went into this big discussion of, isn't the whole point of life that kids have better stuff than their parents?
And like my mom is, she didn't even know how to use her TV.
Right.
She barely knows how to get the remote working. She requires her glasses to find the power button. And and then I'm just telling you, like, as you were doing the live read, Chad, it connected. I was like, you really needn't even say another word. You were making me mad at that point. It was like, okay, you shame me enough. Just here's my checkbook. Let's go.
There it is. AV consultations. Mic drop. That's it. Tell them Orange Bloods Live sent you. All right. So Catch, any super chats? Again, I'm not seeing chats or super chats today. Anything we need to hit super chat wise?
Let's circle back.
I feel so bad I can't see it. I don't know what's going on technically with me today, but I just can't see it.
We did have a ATX Bates for $4.99 with condolences. Jeff, rest in peace, Pineapple Express guy, shot in the dark. Who's the 49ers running back coach? Would you make that call?
Let me look that up. Sure. Why not?
I mean, if you're Texas, you can make any call. You got a checkbook where you're going to be able to offer more than $1 million a year. Trust me.
49ers running backs coach. Robert Turner Jr. is the 49ers running backs coach. He's been there since 2017.
They'll all take your job.
Bobby Turner. God, am I old enough that Bobby Turner, somebody's running backs
You're
coach?
not getting I'm looking just to make sure. I'm scrolling back. South End Zone Queen. I think we're caught up and good.
Okay. By the way, Catch, here's another name. I jokingly said Ohio State, but the guy at Ohio State is named Carlos Locklyn, Locklyn. And if you're a Texas fan that just might want to take some of the other big dog stuff, he just went from 2 years at Oregon to last year at Ohio State. And when I think of those two programs, I think of pretty good running back rooms, pretty good running back talent. So, and he's from Alabama.
Well, look,
born in
Chad, I hate to interrupt you because I literally just said I sometimes do that, and there's an example of it. So, ding, if we did a drinking game, you guys would be right now.
We're not doing that drinking game, please. There's no way we could survive that drinking game.
It'd be fun, though. You know what that wouldn't be? It wouldn't be the drinking game that disappoints. It wouldn't be, because sometimes people will, let's do a drinking game, and then you realize, well, that doesn't happen as much as you think it does. So it's kind of like not a fun drinking game because 45 minutes have gone by. We haven't had a drink. No.
I'd be laying on top of that. I'd be laying on top of the on-air sign wearing the Dodgers helmet at the end of every show.
You just wear one of those helmets with the straws that go into your mouth. And so whenever the alarm goes off, it just pumps it straight in.
That would be perfect.
No, this is the thing. And look, I don't know if ultimately or if we got our answer with him. Maybe though, maybe. What is the most important thing that Sark's going to want from this hire, from a running back hire? We mentioned that when Tashard Choice was hired, that he was the first coach from the state of Georgia hired on the staff. And then not the last either, that just because they had one, like Sark went and added support beams to the infrastructure there and getting Kenny Baker. Is it development? Is it, and it's a running back group that returns everybody but Jaden Blue. You're getting Baxter back and from injury, but I mean, you have 1,000-yard back in Trey Wisner. I don't know that we know what that means. You're going to hear me say that 1,000 times between now and the start of this. I don't know what it means to have Trey Wisner as the best back or the starting back or 1,000-yard back, but he is one and he is there. So you tell me, like, I have an opinion, but when I tell you my opinion, as soon as I do, you're going to go, oh, well, so much for that. Catch gave something or somebody a vote of confidence, and that never works. And there's nobody in the Orange Bloods universe spectrum that was like, hey, Mark Orfe, Team Orfe. Nobody was doing that. Like, nobody said that. And then 5 days later, we're all going, damn, he called the Orfe shot in advance. Big, like, that didn't happen. Like, that really didn't happen with Kenny Baker. Didn't happen with Chris Jackson. So I'm curious, what do you think? What would you want? The most important box that needs to be checked is what?
I mean, it's me trying to get away with it, but it's equal parts development and recruiting. You can't lean one way or the other too heavily, I don't think. I think you need a badass at both of those things. You need a relationship person that also can develop football players. And Tashard Choice was doing at least a pretty damn good job of each of those. Maybe we could talk about what level he'd really reached, but I don't know, Catch, with this position. With the safety coach's position, I talked about you could lean one way or the other, and I would lean development more than recruiting. I think you got to hit a perfect level of both of those things. I don't think you can lack at either one of them. Has to be great in the living room, has to have the relationship thing. Kids have to talk about that part, and then we got to see it on the field. We got to see the development of the running backs. That's a cop-out, I know. I know that's a cop-out answer, but that's what popped in my head.
I want to apologize in advance. I'm thinking about somebody in particular who, to be fair, played running back in college and in the NFL. He knows I'm telling the truth. With all due respect to every college running backs coach watching House Divided today. By the way, like, comment, subscribe. Check out Texas Card House, hijack.com. Just FYI. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. I was literally about to say, correct me, Chad, put the graphic back up so that me saying the address wrong wouldn't be a problem. No.
Right. Sure.
There it is.
Right.
Because it's Hijack Poker, but the address is hijackpoker.com. So
there it is. Yeah.
96% of being a great college running backs coach is being a good recruiter.
Wow, 96%,
yeah, man. Hey,
huh?
Give the guy the ball. Hey, look at him run. It's not being coached. It's not. It is about that is the position. It is, first of all, it's one of the positions going on for decades that is like, can you get a guy on the field early at that position? Yeah. Happens all the time. Why does it happen all the time? Because with all due respect to, well, you got to teach him pass protection, and he's not going to play a lot until he gets that pass protection. Man, can he make guys miss? Can he score touchdowns? If the answer to those questions inevitably are yes and yes, then that guy's going to get on the field all the time. And so for me, and look, I'm telling you right now, Sark is going to do something that he'll hire somebody that I probably wouldn't hire. Although I would say Tashard Choice would have been on a top 3 list a couple of years ago. But Tashard Choice was getting it done as a recruiter at Georgia Tech, and that was making my eyeballs go, whoa. That dude's getting national 100 guys from Georgia to Georgia Tech, and that was right before NIL. So now Georgia Tech's kind of consistently doing that, but now they have NIL supporting it in a way that, believe me, when he did it, I didn't go, oh, wow, Georgia Tech and their NIL. Like now I would say that, but back then I just thought to myself, damn, nice work, Tashard Choice. So I don't know. For me, you got to go get a recruiter. Tashard Choice was a guy that you could send anywhere in the country and he could walk into a living room and be just fine.
Yeah. And we just saw the number one running back in the class. Just showed you how important the relationship thing was to him. It was that. He canceled the official visit. Like
running backs, coaches, there's some position coaches that they don't all have that relationship with their players. Running back coaches do, though. And it's the reason why when I mention Edwards and Osborne, the 2026 kids that are from the state of Texas, that as of this morning, Texas, I think, were heavy leaders for, we'll have to wait and see what Texas does at that running back. Sometimes the answer is there somebody that you can hire that, when we were talking about the DB's coach, if it was like, oh my God, you have to hire somebody that's going to have a good relationship with DBs because they're 4 or 5 stars this year. And, you don't want guys to be trying to establish themselves. That's where you talk about a guy like Corey Raymond and you go, well, he's already recruiting the same guys at LSU. So if you hire him, he's able to come in and it's like, yeah, now I'm at Texas now, but same phone number or, hey, let me give you the new phone number because LSU paid for the last one. But there's a connection there that with every single, depending on the year, the team, I asked you about a week or two ago, what Sark care about the most? Does Sark care about 2025 the most or 2026 the most or that combination of seasons? Or are you being interviewed by Steve Sarkisian that cares just as much about 2029 in an interview as he does in 2025? Which I don't think will be the case. I've been told that they are all in on this year.
Well, you don't have the luxury normally, Catch, to think like that, but I don't really right now. You don't. Like, you have to take advantage of one for sure, but probably 2 of the most unique years of college football that have ever existed with Arch. Ever. It will never. I'm arguing it will never happen again.
What is, you hired him, and so Sarkisian wakes up today, day one, he has his new DB's coach. That guy's super skill is what? What's the box?
That's the one where I would assume he would tell us he leaned more towards development on that one. A little more towards, I want to take a badass high school football player and I want to turn him into a badass college player or a badass young college player. We're going to keep that development going. My guess is he would have leaned that way versus, hey, are you perfect in a living room? This one's different to me. Like you said, the running back thing is different. I said equal, but you make a good argument for maybe it's not equal. But to me, you cannot have a running backs coach where you go, yeah, I don't know what it is. He just goes into the living rooms and everybody gets nervous. Like, moms don't like him. He's weird. He talks weird. He doesn't like food. Did you know that? He won't eat mustard in front of other people. You can't have one of those dudes as a running backs coach, to me.
True. Touche, Chad. They cannot be mutes. I have to concede the point that you can't send in oafs into the living room on the big in-home visits.
You know I like to live on the sturdiest limb possible, Catch. This just in, coaches have to talk. Boom. Mic drop. There it is. I'm going to leave that
The thing
here.
is, if there are college coaches watching right now, they're like, oh, that's what he thinks. Like, they know. Hell, most of the college running back coaches I've known over the years are usually the best golfers on the staffs. They don't even have to, because they're not even really trying that hard. How hard is it to go find running backs? You put on the film, you look at it. He's good. Should we go recruit him? Yes? No?
Yep. Click, click.
Okay.
Click, 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 click. We're done.
It's not rocket science. So I don't know. But I think, look, I tend to agree with you that I think the DB coach, who the hell knows when Sark will next speak with the media? I mean, I don't.
Right. We don't even know. We haven't been given the full spring schedule and all that stuff. But these two guys that we're talking about today, hopefully there'll be a nice at least question or two, because you'd love to get his mindset on why Orfe was the guy.
I think the signing day State of the Union, not signing day. We didn't actually. That's why that was a little bit of a Freudian slip there. Signing day just passed last week, and there was no. Now they didn't sign anybody new, but he didn't do a press conference on signing day.
There'll be a right before spring starts press conference.
Yeah, the State of the Union eve of spring practice.
Yeah, and in that one, there'll be definitely an Orfe discussion, and then by that time, you would have replaced Tashard Choice, and then that full process of, hey, what were you looking for? Why is this guy the right guy? Because obviously he'll be hired.
I think he's going to mention development chops. Now,
in both cases, or in just the DB's case?
Everybody's got a little bit of a different story.
Okay.
Orfe has not, if you were to hire Tashard Choice, I mean, you can call that anything you want to, because he had developed and had, when he goes into the portal, when he takes the Texas job, Gibbs goes into the portal and was the number one running back in the portal that year. And he goes to Alabama. And so it was, there was a little bit of like, yeah, he's good. Look how good he is. And I don't know. Again, Sark's a difficult one. You go enough. What we always have to take into account is that somebody somewhere has got a connection to Sark, and so that there will be at some point one of the next couple of hires, there will be a Johnny Nansen type, where it's like, oh yeah, no, they go back together at USC, or they go back to Washington, or they were in the NFL, or we will eventually see, and this I don't think isn't breaking news or a hot take. This is what a lot of coaches mostly do. They hire people they've either worked with in the past or have connections with. It's either going to be a guy that he's worked with, or it's going to be somebody like Orfe, where we look at, and they're starting to become, I think, a Sark profile that we've now seen a few guys hit. They're always young. And I think when you dig around on them, you'll find out that development is a cornerstone of whatever they've accomplished so far in their profession. And it was the thing that, that Sark talked about with Kenny Baker. And it's, you could kind of lampoon. I did. You could lampoon that the day that he was hired, because it's like, it's a little bit like the running back thing. It's like, okay, well, yeah, no, I mean, you can be an assistant defensive line coach in the NFL and be of use, or you could be Jalen Carter, who you and I could be the assistant defensive line coach for the Eagles. And that dude would make some plays whether or not we ever helped him or not.
Yeah, I'd take all that credit.
And so sometimes it's like, well, yeah, no, he's the running backs coach. Who's his running back? Bijan Robinson. Oh, well, he must be. He's awesome then. It's like,
he knows just when to yell, go get him.
The best running backs coach of all time was, right? It's a hard one. It's either Walter Payton's or Barry Sanders. We go back and forth whenever us hardcore NFL fans get into arguments. We argue about those coaches. When in reality, we don't know their names.
I was going to say, I can't tell you either one of their names. No clue. No clue at all. All right. While I cannot see chats, I can see almost 900 of you in the Specs chat, and we do appreciate that. Speaking of Specs, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. If you're scrambling, if you're freaking out a bit, maybe these 3 words can help you. Bottle of wine.
Ooh la la, what a fabulous selection. I think I found my perfect pairing. You and Specs low prices.
Specs huge wine sale going on now.
There you go. Or if you just need a drink, because Tashard Choice is headed to the Lions. We get that. Longhorn fans trying to figure all that out. Or if you're like me and you're a Dallas area sports fan, and just the whole last week or month or 30 years has been getting you. Maybe you need a bottle of wine too.
See, and I just did that. Con!
Don't worry. Don't beat yourself up. I wouldn't know it was you if it didn't happen. What was it?
One of the, I think, obvious names of when South End Zone Queen asks who's on a top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Someone threw out the name Rashad Samples, who is a wide receivers coach at Oregon, and is is it apple for apple? Is it, and he's the running backs coach at Oregon this year, and was the wide receivers coach at Arizona State. He's been the running backs coach in the NFL. He's known as a badass recruiter. He was at Texas ever so briefly under Tom Herman as an assistant wide receivers coach, and never got the upgrade. Everybody kind of knew when he was at Texas back then that he was kind of a star on the rise, he and Brian Carrington at the same time. And so now he's an assistant head coach. He's a running backs coach. He is obviously, his dad is a high school football legend in the Metroplex. But that seems too obvious.
That's where you're saying just when you see the obvious path that's not where Sark has taught us.
I'm saying that's on that. Duh, he's on the top 3 list. Duh.
Right.
Duh.
Just like Mickens was at Notre Dame.
Even more so, because Samples checks all of the boxes before you get to, is he the prodigal son coming home? Well, yes, he was a former assistant coach here once upon a time, and did once upon a time, I don't know what Rashad Samples wants now, but once upon a time working at Texas. Yes.
So he did work at Texas before, Catch, is what you're saying. Did a former coach just texted me? Did he have a particular area that he covered? Was that a thing? I'm sorry, just back to the Tom Herman thing.
Well, the thing is, they weren't able to use him in the Metroplex the way, because he was not at the time one of the 10 assistants.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
But
detail.
what made Samples at the time stand out, because this is really abnormal, was that so many guys were mentioning him as this guy's impacting my recruitment. A lot of them in the Metroplex, and that stood to reason because of where he's from. He went to high school at Skyline. Again, his dad is a legendary high school coach in the Dallas area.
What's the dad's name again?
Reginald.
That's right.
So, you're just, it's like first family of Dallas kind of high school football. So when he made the comment of like, does he come from an area or does he recruit an area? The answer is yes. I mean, he is notably from Dallas, and notably has wildly relevant. His dad is the current head coach at Duncanville.
Is that important? Is that place important at all?
I mean, he is currently the running backs coach at Oregon, who, oh, by the way, just signed the guy that I would rate as the number one prospect in the state from a year ago, who is now at Oregon, but is from the high school that his dad. So yeah, no, like,
that would be.
You believe there are no accidents in this world, or you believe there are accidents. I tend to believe that there aren't, and that it didn't hurt Oregon or Rashad Samples to have that connection in that recruitment. So yeah, like, look, that would be a 5-star hire. That says, to me, that would be as good of a hire as Texas could do.
Sounds like at least make him say no kind of a guy. And that's where I said, without even realizing, Catch, that's who was there. That's why I mentioned those schools. Like, and Oregon is one I'd throw in. I said Ohio State, Georgia, Bama. I'd throw Oregon in too. Who's coaching at all of those places? I would keep that list at all times. Why are they there? Why are they important? Are they important enough to talk to? And in that case, couldn't hurt to reach out.
Now, you know what?
All they can.
Tashard Choice is an interesting. We were talking earlier about Tashard Choice. Samples is an interesting cat because he's younger than Choice. Didn't Choice just have a birthday?
I'm not sure. I'll look him up for you real quick. Though. I know they just had a baby.
I just want to make sure.
He's 40. Okay. Tashard's 40 years old, Catch.
And he turned 40 last season. So,
yeah, in November.
I'm thinking of somebody
November of
else.
84.
But
okay,
if you look at Samples' if you look at his bio, he's student assistant at U of H 2016, 2017. He goes to Texas as an assistant wide receivers coach. And SMU hired him as an offensive assistant and gave him a raise, and just kind of, he wasn't on the field yet, but they basically said, we think you're a star. We want to give you more money. We want to take you away from Texas. And they did. And so he goes there. And then the very next year, he's the recruiting coordinator and the running backs coach at SMU. And then the next year, he's the assistant head coach and the running backs coach. So they're springing titles on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I bring all this is headed to a place, and here it is. Then he takes a 1-year hiatus with the LA Rams to be the running backs coach there. There was no real reason for him to go there. It wasn't like when I tell you that when you look at assistant coaches at the college game, why are they going to the NFL? And usually it's to tick a box, to put it on their resume so that they can then come back to college with the I've been in the NFL. So what did Samples get upon returning back to college? Just 1 year in the NFL. He's still in his 20s. And Arizona State hires him as wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator. And then, Oregon hires him, and he takes essentially a little bit of a demotion to take a promotion, to elevate programs. He gives up the passing game coordinator, which, might have just been I think that was just a title in name only, which is why he probably went back to assistant head coach at Oregon and running backs coach. But
yeah, and he just turned 30. Just turned 30 in December.
So he's a young guy. But when we look at Tashard Choice and say I think Tashard Choice is doing the same thing. I think Tashard Choice is going to go spend a cup of tea in the NFL, and then he's going to come back. And then I think when he comes back, he's going to come back with a coordinator title somewhere. And
and to your point, it certainly can't hurt that he's going to have the Jahmyr Gibbs relationship to hang out with for that time.
Or
that's got to mean,
or he maybe elevates to the NFL. We'll see. But I think it's a no-lose position for him. The worst thing that happens is that he's got one of the 32 running back jobs in the world in the NFL. It is in its profession. It doesn't get higher. And so in the coaching world, getting a year in the NFL is seen as, it's like going to Juilliard or something like that. No matter what.
Studying at Oxford for a summer.
Say no more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Say no more.
Yeah. Certain words. Yeah, you just can throw them out. If y'all want to jump in the chat, throw us a super chat. They will go right to the top of the list. Also, let me give everybody a quick idea. This is an idea with another idea on top of it, and that is Taste on Main in Buda. We told you about them before. With Valentine's Day coming up, I'm not going to guarantee you can get a table at Taste on Main tomorrow night. But try. Give it a shot. But get your reservation if you can. But if not, look, Valentine's on a Friday, that doesn't mean Saturday and Sunday are useless. If you're with somebody that has to have the Valentine's meal on the 14th, they might not be the right person. The food's still going to be awesome on the 15th and the 16th. So maybe you check out Taste on Main over the weekend or just some other time, maybe away from Valentine's Day. But it's a great casual steakhouse in downtown Buda. It's one of my favorite places to go have a steak. They have wonderful drinks. As I've mentioned, that Sam Elliott's mustache drink is awesome. I've told you I love the Brussels sprouts. Yes, Brussels sprouts. They're my favorite on earth. I always get them with a steak. It's just a great environment. You'll love the atmosphere, multiple bar settings, including that treehouse bar, and pretty romantic if you're looking for a little downtown Buda Valentine's Day. So give it a shot. And if it doesn't work for tomorrow night, do it another time at Taste on Main. You will love it. All right. Catch any super chats that we need to hit or chats we need to hit?
No, on the super chats. I'm looking at an article that rivals Adam Gorney just posted, I don't know, an hour ago, maybe less. I think you had the Xavier Crowell comment where he says, "I'm shocked. We had a great relationship." He's got a quote from Javion Osborne that says, quote, "definitely came out of the blue." Again, Osborne is a kid that I mentioned earlier that I think Texas was really emerging as the leader. And it was thought that Michigan was his leader. and then Texas, it just kind of like overtook Michigan in a big way. That's kind of the context of these comments. He says, quote, surprised me because I'm like, wow. I had kids at school saying that the coach left, and I'm like, what's that? Not true. And then I saw it with my own eyes, just in shock, but very happy for him and his family. Let's see.
Yeah. And the other thing that'll happen, Catch, that we never think about is now that the shock will hit that kid, whoever the kid is, the kid you would assume will communicate with choice at some point and then process the information. You know, assuming Tashard Choice has been realistic with those kids, then he'll be realistic about the situation, and then the kid can then go on to make their own choice.
Sometimes you'd be surprised. Sometimes these college coaches –
now, maybe not.
Sometimes it's like, hey, man, that phone is registered to the University of Texas.
Well, that's a whole nother deal. That's a whole nother discussion.
I'm out. No. Yeah, look, every situation is different. I brought up the quotes from those guys, and there's one from KJ Edwards, the kid out of Carthage, and and his comments interesting because it's a little more. He says, "quote I'm all for doing and wanting him to better, so I'm happy for him. He told me his goal was to eventually get to the league, so it was a surprise in a sense, but wasn't at the same time." End quote.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of realism I'm talking about. If he's been that real with the kids, it won't freak him out that much. If he said that to them, if he said, matter of fact, one day I would love to coach in the NFL.
Look, there's a difference. And I don't have to give anybody the names of the guys. I can just, these are the three sets of quotes. Quote number one, I'm shocked. We had a great relationship. Number two, and that's it. No other commentary. Mm-hmm. That was it. Number two, definitely came out of the blue. Surprised me because I was like, wow, I had kids at school saying that coach left, and I was like, what? That's not true. And then I saw it with my own eyes. I was just kind of in shock, but happy for him and his family. That's quote number two. And then quote number three is, hey, man, I'm all for him doing and wanting to do better for himself, so I'm happy for him. He told me his goal was to eventually get to the league, so it was a surprise in a sense, but wasn't at the same time. Yeah. I mean, of those three, if I were to say they'll get one of the three, can you guess which of the three? I think there's a definite, number three sounds pretty okay with kind of everything that's happened. And he sounds very understanding. And then it goes all the way up to number one, who just says, I'm shocked. We had a great relationship. Oh, by the way, he's already canceled an official visit that he was going to take to Texas, which I don't think anything was going to come out of it because 2 and 3 on that quote list are both guys that Texas, I think, is really targeted as you're our top guys. There's not a ton of difference, I think, in all of that, but when you look at quotes from right after a coach leaves, how emphatic is a guy? I guess that's ultimately the question. Mm-hmm. And what you want in every quote is for a guy not to be overly emphatic.
Yeah. And I didn't think any of those three were too overly emphatic. Nobody closed the door.
No, except, we know one kind of did.
Yeah. I mean, you closed one type of door. You said, I'm not going to have the official visit in June. I'm going to need to grab another official visit for that weekend. But you didn't say, I got to take Texas off my list.
Yeah, but that's taking Texas off your list. I'm telling you, as somebody in the recruiting game, I am not splitting hairs with you here. I'm just telling you,
right,
that recruitment's over.
You're saying no matter who the next running backs coach is, it's not going to matter.
Barring they land a. I have to look and see. I don't even know all of Crowell's looking at Alabama. He's looking at Auburn. Unless you landed like the Alabama or Auburn coach.
Right.
Because you're chasing ghosts a little bit in that, like, let's be real with that kid. He's an in-state running back, and, oh, by the way, his front runners are Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah.
Yes, he is looking at Texas.
Right.
But
Out of state running back. You said in-state.
Well, he isn't. Yes, he's out of state to Texas.
Right.
But for Alabama and Auburn, he's in-state.
Right. Okay.
And if you're Texas, you're looking at him as, who are we competing against? Oh, just the two in-state schools with NIL money to burn and motivation to keep their kids in state. All I'm saying is you wouldn't make your decision on who you hire based on what you think that kid wants, because he's a long shot.
I think that's fair. And like you're saying, it may have been a long shot anyway, and it just got longer.
It was, and it did.
Yeah, it was long anyway. They just backed that target up about 30 more yards.
But if you really keep up with recruiting, it's Osborne and
Edwards
that you were waiting to hear from.
Mm-hmm.
And one's initial response is really not that surprised. He did say he was going to go to the pros. The surprise would be that it just happened, but not that it happened.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's a great job by Tashard Choice, being honest. Be as honest as you can with them, and that way that reaction doesn't turn into absolute shock. That means that Tashard Choice on the front end catch was not overly emphatic. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to be overly emphatic on his end, and now the kid doesn't end up super emphatic on his end, freaking out because he feels like he got lied to.
But look, we saw a year ago, Bo Davis leaves Texas to go to LSU. And there were just guys that were ride or die with the position coach. And it's not always like that. But it is sometimes.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I was waiting to see, does either Osborne or Edwards, who for me are both top 10 in the state, super blue chip kind of guys, does anybody come back saying anything emphatic about this changes everything? Now I've got to see what they're going to do. Like, is there any language or code in there that makes it sound like they're putting the foot on the brakes of anything? Not that I saw. Like that. Not that I saw. Like,
yeah.
So it can definitely be worse. You hate when a recruit basically says, like, well, now they've got to prove something to me, kind of a thing, right? Where now I need to see who they hire. Now, you have, like, every guy knows that. Hey, maybe the new running backs coach doesn't even like me. Maybe I don't like him. So it's natural to say, I've got to wait and see what happens with the new running backs coach. But it's another thing to say it in a little bit of an act of defiance.
Yeah.
Even if that act of defiance is born out of something real, right? Why is this guy defiant? Well, he's the number 2 or 3 running back in the country. Oh, does everybody in the country want him and offer him a scholarship? Pretty much. Is everybody offering him like $1 million+ dollars? Yeah. In general, do you think this guy should give anybody preferential treatment? No, not really. So Texas is losing a coach, and like he wants to, you know what I mean? Other than the ABCs of it all makes sense that he would say that. All things being equal, you just want it to sound like everything is cool. What you don't want is on the day that it happens for a guy to go, and I've canceled my official visit. What? That tells you how far away Texas was.
That's fair. I think that is fair. We got a little buy or sell coming up for y'all before we get done.
It also tells you, Chad, how good of that was probably when I tell you, I don't know that we've seen the effects of Tashard Choice at Texas really yet. Because I don't think last year they went and got I think it was an okay recruiting class. But it could be that when I say things like, we just never got a chance to see him really do the damn thing as a recruiter, that might have been a recruitment that in 6 months from now, that kid's leaning towards Texas. And we would say,
yeah,
in an alternative universe, look at how good of a recruiter Tashard Choice is, because that kid otherwise wouldn't even be looking. You sometimes will hear that a kid wouldn't have even been looking at Texas if not for, we certainly said it with Bo Davis. It felt like every kid he was recruiting all said that about Bo. The problem is they weren't all 5 stars. They were all like high 3 stars and low 4 stars. It was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
That national 300 guy only wants to go where Bo wants to go.
And again, the fact that we had a great relationship was the first thing that pops out of his mouth. It wasn't about Texas. It wasn't about Sark. It was boom. I'm shocked. We had a great relationship. The first thing the first thing out of his mouth in terms of the quote itself. So I think that might be important.
And again, there's kind of a bunch of golden rules. So I hate to stop and sometimes repeat Catch, you said that yesterday or the day before. But I think it's good to reinforce these things. And Chad, you're the perfect. It's why you and I we vibe really well. We love to ask questions. And this is a perfect example of ask, well, what does it say? And then, well, what did it not, or what does it not say? And I think that is one of the things in this particular point that you can do that with. And, I think there are interesting answers on both sides with what the implications of either what it either could or could not implicate.
Yeah. And obviously once Texas gets a new running backs coach, then Osborne's reaction, Edwards' reaction, and how those stories progress will be huge for Texas in the 2026 class. Catch, before we do anything else, I want to bring it full circle, because today's show in many ways is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Like, in a way, every show is brought to you by Rogue Shop. But right before we started the show today, we were getting the pre-stuff done. We were just about to roll, and I said, Catch, are you ready? And then you held something up to
tell on me, man. You're telling on me.
And I was like, oh, I see. So
have I had any rogue moments today?
No, not at all. But I think it's an important thing. I've mentioned a couple ways people might use today, Texas fans, to get through this kind of a crazy day. And, when Tashard Choice heads off to the Detroit Lions, sometimes that could give a fan a little anxiety, might freak him out a little bit. And, Rogue can help him.
On a day when you lose your favorite running backs coach, or, I don't know, you need someone to, drive heavy machinery with like small children riding in their laps. Sorry. I make myself laugh sometimes.
What? I took the plane was taken off. I just handed it right to you. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful transition.
Oh, I know you handed me the plane. All right.
And then you went Ted Stryker on me. No, you were the inflatable. That's what you were. I handed you the plane and you went inflatable and then started to deflate. What's happening?
The thing is, just no, come back, Chad. This happened with us in radio once too.
One time.
The thing is, did you ever work with Ed Clements?
No, never did.
I spent one football season working with Ed, and Ed would get this look in his eye.
No, I can imagine.
It really would like glimmer. It would shine and sparkle like a diamond in Africa.
The professional term for that look is the hey podsy. That's a hey podsy look.
He'd get that look, and you just knew, A, A, something wildly inappropriate is about to be said.
Yes.
B, Ed's going to think it's so funny. He's going to laugh at his own joke. And C, no matter how inappropriate it is, he's not going to get blamed for it. It will get turned around and spun and weaponized against whatever co-host or whoever he's working with that day is. I watched it in real time happen. I can't even say what he said, but he once made a comment just
I can imagine
about Sam Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
And like the next Monday, Jeff Ward was like, "Yep, got all your hate mail, Ed. Everybody thinks I said that. It wasn't me. I didn't say that." And Ed was like, "Yeah, I had a good round of golf today." You know. So, you know, like I had the Ed Clements moment though. I know if you go back to just the moment before 30 seconds or less, there was a moment where I was like, "Oh, I think that's funny." I had that in my head and I was like, I'm just going to say it no matter what happens next. And that's what happened. I said it.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Shout out to Rogue Shop. Fantastic.
Shout out to Rogue Shop.
Yeah. Well done, Rogue Shop. All right. So, Catch, we've covered a lot of ground today. Tashard Choice headed to the Detroit Lions to be their running backs coach. And Mark Orfe is going to be the new safeties coach for Texas. We talked about that. What comes next for Texas? Be on the lookout for who the next running backs coach is going to be. Obviously, shout out to Anwar Richardson and orangebloods.com for breaking that story about Orfe last night. When it went down. Keep your eyes peeled to orangebloods.com for the very latest on the running backs coach and who it's going to be. The reporting will be there when it happens. Catch, before we buy or sell, anything else on these two stories today or something else that maybe just popped in your head?
Oh, well, let's keep in mind. So if we reverse engineer, I don't know why I want to reverse engineer everything today and this week, but I've been a big let's reverse engineer some stuff.
Yeah, I do that with lunches, even though it doesn't apply. It sounds good. We're going to reverse engineer these fries. No, you're not, but it sounds cool. So we're gonna reverse engineer this just for a second. Okay.
And because I do think it's interesting that Anwar, when he reported Orfe's name, now it came out of nowhere. So Anwar was the first to report that Orfe was even a candidate. And then when he did, we were just like, oh, that seems so very specific. Mm-hmm. And then even with a little bit of like cursory research, you're like, oh, he's from Houston, and oh, he went to North Shore, and you're like, huh.
And you pointed out the other layer. He went to Texas Southern as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that part till I was looking stuff up this morning. 2007 is when he was a player there, and he began his coaching career at Texas Southern.
And then you look at a couple of the other guys, and you go, in real time, and the reason why I bring this up now is we were talking about this yesterday, is a couple of them made sense, but they didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. The Notre Dame cat made sense. Mickens made sense, except he doesn't make sense. He's a Midwest guy.
Regionally.
He has spent every year of the last 14 years in either the state of Indiana or Ohio in 13 of the last 14 years. And that's not like at one or two schools.
Right.
It's like at 4 or 5 schools that he's.
I think that one was almost flipped catch. We made the art. I argued. I think that could have been really good for Mickens, but it wouldn't have been as good for Texas.
No, I'm saying on paper it was a perfectly good hire.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is now go back to the original list that was reported on Wednesday or Thursday, which had Mickens and the Syracuse guy in it, but it had mentioned Dwayne Aquina,
Mm-hmm.
and it had mentioned Jimmy Lake.
Right.
Now, at the time, I had a source. I don't think I mentioned this in the War Room. I think I mentioned this on Friday's show, where I mentioned that I had a source who said 2 of those names look like they've just almost been planted as, of course, they're on the list names. And a couple of yesterday, the same 2 names still felt the same way. You looked at Mickens and you could go, well, you can talk yourself into it would make sense, but for the reasons why now that it didn't happen, why it doesn't make sense, it didn't make sense, right? He's not from this area. He seems like a guy. First of all, there's nothing about his career that suggests that he's unhappy at Notre Dame. We're only talking about him because Texas has a need. He's from that area. He played in that area. He clearly wants to live in that area. So that part just didn't make sense. Now, look, if Texas money whipped him, hey man, that makes sense. That's a story that sells. If you had told me later tonight, oh, he's the new coach. Well, why did he take the job? Because Texas offered him $1.5 million. Oh, 0.5 million reasons. Gotcha.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when the lists come out, reverse engineer this thing in real time. Don't ask yourself who's like on the list that like you necessarily like. Who are the dummies? Who are the
dummies? You mean the decoys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like dummies as in they can't read and write, but like
Right. Who are the place fillers? Who are just holding the place on the list?
Find out who those guys are. Because either A, doesn't mean that the guys initially are the guys. But what it might mean is when an evolved list comes out and those guys are still on it and you know those aren't the right names. Because I think deep down we knew. Just didn't make sense. They would have been perfectly good hires.
Right.
Just didn't make sense. And as soon as we saw the Orphe deal and we were like, wait a minute, he's Saban endorsed. He's worked under a Saban guy in Shiano who comes with a ton of respect. Like he's from North Shore and you just started like talking it out and you were like, man, I don't know if he's the best guy, but I get why Sarkisian would be of interest to Sarkisian. All I'm saying is, as we get ready to go into whatever Sark does with this next hire, don't wait until after this is over with to go, you know what? There were a couple of trends in this thing that we should remember in 2026. No, I don't know if it's a trend or not, but we know what just happened. This happened. Yeah. As this next thing's about to happen, let's just ask ourselves in real time, if similar things were happening, who would be the players in this act where that's the case? And maybe that does eventually reveal the answer in real time. Because I think we did know yesterday. It was unofficial. It was like everybody's spidey senses were going off. That's what happened yesterday.
Yeah, it started blinking a little more and more. It was like a slower blink, and then it just started blinking a little faster and then a little brighter, and eventually it just made sense. And in this particular case, Catch, we are talking about this position where we keep saying it because it keeps happening. If he's the head coach for the whole season, Sark has 1,000-yard rusher every year. And maybe there's more games to get it done in now than there used to be. I get that. But, that thing is still out there. So maybe it's go look at all those running backs coaches he's had. Do they have something in common? And then, like you said, when a list starts to form, what are the things that are going to jump out to us? Whereas, and maybe Catch, just to use a balanced argument here. If the defensive side, safeties coach, made us think of Saban, is this offensive side running backs coach? Are we going to think of either Pete Carroll or Norm Chow or, something in that side of Sark's mindset? I don't know. I mean, I guess Pete Carroll technically is a defensive coach, but you know what I mean? Like, are we going to see little clues about maybe come out from his past like we kind of saw with Saban here?
I don't know, because Sark kind of has gone all over the map with the hires that he has made on the offensive side of the ball. If Banks, Flood, they come with him, and they've stayed with him. So a big chunk. And we know that his quarterbacks coach, pretty much the same thing, that comes with him from Alabama and has been with him since day one. So the only turnover he's had has been at the running backs coach and at the wide receivers coach. Now, when he retained Coleman, people told him not to do that from a recruiting sense. And I think he thought, oh, we're good. We've got me. It won't matter. When they went after Brennan Marion, I think there was a thought that this guy's a little bit more hotshot, superstar kind of a background. And I think that's probably right. So I think when Marion left, I think one of the things that Sark said was, I need someone who can develop, but I need somebody who's not going to be an extra cook in the kitchen. I want someone who just says, yes, chef. And that's it. Not, yes, chef, question.
Yes, chef, but hear me out.
And, I think, we learn a little bit about Sarkisian as we go. And by the way, I know this show's gone on forever. I did not know that we were going to do a 2-hour epic. We haven't even done buy or sell yet, right?
We have not.
Just rambling today.
It's all we have left, in case that makes you feel any better.
I just don't, when we got started with Sark, there were just things we just weren't going to know about him until we have seen a few things. Charlie, when Charlie came, he had a little bit of a biographer with him. When you think of, I can't think of the reporter's name now, but he covers the Florida sites in the Rivals Network. But once upon a time, he came over and immediately was in the Texas market and was like, oh, okay. He worked with Chip back in the day. I just can't think of his name. Anyway, sometimes there are guys that will show up and they'll know this guy's MO is this. I think we're kind of learning Sark's MO. And I think with Marion, we learned he didn't really want someone to come in and help him with the offense. Not really. Maybe he can get an analyst who can do that. But I think he's much more open to the idea of, A, I just want someone who's going to come in and be a good teacher, or B, yeah, I'm good with somebody who's going to come in and be a badass recruiter.
Yeah.
Both would be great.
Yeah. Another weird thing to look for, Catch. Do they have assistant running backs coach in the NFL? Like, could we see a weird Baker replay? Do they have any? I don't know if that position even exists.
Sure.
If there's a hot shot, badass assistant running backs coach in the NFL that once spent time in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban, figure out who that is. Maybe that's.
I don't even need that. I said this whenever the hell we were doing shows. Today's Thursday, and I only did a show on Monday.
That is true.
But I did do 2 shows on Monday. Well, whenever I did a show last, it was like if Sark came back and said, who's my next hire? I went around and I asked Saban and I asked guys that I trust, whoever the hell that is, Pete Carroll, whomever, who's the best assistant running backs coach in the NFL? And like there was a consensus, and he came back and he go, this is the name that I was given. It's a hell of a credit to Kenny Baker that in 1 year, I think I would at least go, okay, yeah, sure. I feel, you know who I feel like? I feel like, what's his name in Bull Durham, the bull pig, Arliss.
Robert Wool.
I feel like Robert Wool when he's on the mound, and afterwards he's like, okay, well, yeah,
we're good.
We're good.
I think we got a plan here. Yeah, right. We got a plan.
It's a little bit of how I feel. A little bit.
Yeah, but it's going to be. Yeah, I don't know if that'll be the path, but like you said, we start to learn kind of what is Sark into, and there were plenty of questions when that story came down, but now Baker's become Baker, so you do feel like so far Sark wants maybe all coaches, but running back coach, you want a guy who either aspires to the NFL or he's already been there. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's a little of both.
As a running backs coach, you want somebody who can flat out be an answer to recruiting problems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, beyond that, the profile that you want, I think, is what you just described. You want a guy that you can point to guys and say, this guy's been in the league.
Yeah. He's coached NFL talent.
He can get you ready for the league. We know that works. We've seen it even recently with Stan Drayton.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or you want like this guy's the next thing. And, with Tashard Choice, I think his profile read that guy was in the league recently. He had checked boxes recently at like a school like Georgia Tech, where even recruits, you know who Tashard Choice ended up being? One of these assistant coaches. Every once in a while, you'll see a guy, and he'll have a top 5, and now you'll see it really because guys have unlimited visits. So they're like, here's my top 8. These are the schools I'm going to take official visits, and you're like, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Ohio State, San Jose State, USC. You do that thing where you're like, wait a minute. What the hell San Jose State doing on that list? Inevitably, every time there's an assistant coach on that coaching staff that's so good.
Yep.
As a recruiter that he can get into a top 5. And a lot of times, man, those assistant coaches will beg. They know they're not getting that kid.
Yeah. Catch, we just saw it with remember the guy that was at A&M, the associate head, the guy that took over for the little period after Jimbo and goes to Syracuse.
Yes.
And Jason and I would be talking about recruiting, and he'd say, it's weird. This guy's looking at Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Syracuse.
Javion Nelson was like, for a while when Texas was his leader, it was like Syracuse is his next visit. And it was like
every time I thought, well, I know who's at Syracuse and I know why that might exist. Yeah.
No, and you know, it is what it is, but you know, just all these are little things to keep an eye on as we're all going to bird dog it and try to put on our Encyclopedia Brown hats to figure out who the next coach is. The thing is, you just know that Sark more times than not is going to be, he literally just did it. South End Zone Queen earlier was like, give me a top 3 names. It's like, why? He won't take any of those 3.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the Orphe thing is wild.
Tashard Choice makes not Tashard Choice, but Samples makes a ton of sense. Except he's a little too rock star, maybe. Like he's a rock star. Like that guy.
Right. And then would Sark think, is he a little young at 30? Is it perfect? You know, like if Choice is leaving at 40, this is a guy we talked about that's 30. Would Sark tell us that number's a little too young? Would he tell us it's the right number? I don't know. I
think Sark likes a tight ship. And I think, you know, I'll give you an example. I used to be pretty good friends. Like we would talk quite a bit with a former assistant coach on the Texas staff who at the time was at Oklahoma. He and I would talk all the time. And he ends up getting a job at Texas. And I made a like how-to kit of Austin for him and his family. Like we were good enough friends that I was like, oh, you're moving to Austin? That's fantastic. So I made him like every type of restaurant in the city of Austin that you could possibly be interested in. Here's where you could go. Here are the neighborhoods, blah, 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 blah. And like, before I could even get that to him, he had found out how much Mac Brown hated me. And he was basically like, I can't let Mac know that I know you. Or I don't think I'm going to get the job. And I was like, no, man, I get it. What I didn't get, though, is that as time continued, that he would have to continue to pretend that like we didn't have a relationship and stuff like that. But I bring that up because that's the way a lot of coaches are like that. Like a lot of times the worst thing that can happen is for someone to advocate for you. And it's like, oh. And I always say in our line where it's like, hey, if you ever want to know who someone's source is, let like a coaching job change or something like that. And then wait to see who gets advocated for jobs. Because that's usually a great sign. If someone's like, let me tell you who the smartest, best person on the staff is. Bo Davis. Bo Davis, best coach in America. You know, like if someone just it always sounds like they're laying it on a little extra thick source every time. Hey, we do it too. I'm just telling you, this is what full transparency looks like. It's when I open up the curtains and let you see what Oz looks like when the crazy ass cuckoo mayor of Oz is running things.
This is what happens when you watch past 2 hours. That's what this is.
Right okay, here. Buy or sell and let's go.
If you've ever wondered what happens past the 2 hour mark. First or second catch?
I don't care. I'll go second.
I don't care. All right. Buy or sell number 1. The Ocean's 11 heist for Texas in the 2026 class involves Turntine and Ojo.
Buy, probably. There it's so automatic. So I think it's an obvious buy. I suppose I'm trying to think about who the third guy is. I wonder if they're not 1 and 2, no matter what.
Right.
And so
my thought was those two guys and like some incredible defensive player.
I mean, it might be that the answer is just those two guys and anybody great.
Right.
Because you can even make a case that those two guys and Diabell is a pretty damn, we're almost numb now. It's been long enough now since his commitment that, son of Raja Bell, longtime NBA player, arguably the best, high school quarterback in the country from, an area of the country that Texas should not just be swooping in and taking players. Like, we're almost numb to that happening. And which really just, I always say this, we do analysis, and we do analysis for a program now that's on the cusp of a national championship. So a lot of the talk is really about how you cut down the fine margins to win a national championship. So a lot of times what ends up happening is you don't constantly just reinforce over and over again the positives because you're in the middle of the quest. Who knows? Maybe Alabama shows sounded different or Georgia shows sounded different. I don't think they did. I think you're always in chase mode and always talking about the Chiefs. Perfect example. Always about the three-peat and never about, hey, let's stop and smell the roses. But I think that, we can look at this and actually there are signs around us.
That was just one. Buy or sell number 2, trivia time, catch. Kevin Durant just hit 30,000 points. He is the 8th to do it. You can name 6 of the other 7.
Oh, shit. If I try, it'll be 5 o'clock before we know. You know what? Bye. I'm going to try.
All right, give it a shot.
All right, so it's LeBron.
Yep.
Malone.
Yes.
Michael.
Correct.
I give up.
I really felt like there was some good steam there. Giving up.
I feel like I was on the cusp of saying.
Let me give you a hint. 2 big men.
Was Dirk one?
Dirk is one. That's not the big man, but yeah, I mean, I guess in a way that's a big man. Yes, Dirk's on the list. There are 2 true centers on this list. Who did LeBron pass for the scoring?
So Kareem and Wilt.
There you go. You got one name left.
And who am I just obviously forgetting?
Yeah, it's kind of an obvious one because Malone to me is Malone and Dirk are the 2.
I was going to say Akeem. So
no,
he didn't play. I don't know. You tell me.
Kobe.
Yeah. Now, duh.
Right. Congrats to Kevin Durant, man. The 8th guy ever to hit 30,000 points. Crazy stuff. All right, Catch. Let's go back to the Super Bowl briefly. Buy or sell number 3. As a rap fan, you're thrilled to see the numbers from Kendrick's halftime show. You think we're going to see more like it?
Great buy or sell question. Let me start. Buy. I hadn't put it in so many words where I'm like, I'm thrilled. But yeah, I'm really pleased that they've, that it's the most watched halftime show essentially of all time, that all of the numbers that he would want to hit, they seem to have hit. I think we're going to see more like it.
And maybe that's impossible because you're never going to get everything coming together like, that
well,
song.
That's what I'm selling because I don't think you can recapture Kendrick's. Now, look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a year from now, we'll go, oh, these things are going to start happening every year because.
Right. My goofy thought is that the NFL is going to start a diss track department. They're going to have like 2 or 3 kids that are between 19 and 22 year round, just searching for diss tracks to see if they can create a halftime show. But it'll be hard.
Like, did you hear what happened with Eminem and Lil Wayne? No, what happened? Lil Wayne called M a buster. No. Now the beef is on, and now they're diss tracking it, and it's on.
All right, Catch. We'll go to the another side of music here since we've discussed this recently. Buy or sell number 4. Michael McDonald was 73 years old yesterday. Prime on Prime Yacht Rock Showdown. You'll go see the Doobie Brothers over anybody else.
Ooh.
Yacht Rock concert in their prime. Doobies over everybody.
Wow.
Or is there another yacht rocker in your head right now?
No, I do have several in my head.
Right? So are you more of a, I don't know, you a Steely Dan guy or?
No, I need you to stand as an arbitrator.
Okay.
Does Hall & Oates count as
yacht rock? See, that's great. I am not enough of an aficionado of the definition of art rock, of yacht rock and exactly what is and what isn't.
I think of them as very specific Philadelphia soul and R&B. And
like I don't consider Hall & Oates yacht rock, but I might be wrong.
But there are people who hear those songs.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, they're like in.
I would say if you'd like, you can use those people and just end up at a prime Hall & Oates show.
No, that's the issue. Like if you're going to include Hall & Oates, I want to go to the Hall & Oates show.
Okay, there you go. I
don't want to include them.
Because then you could leave and say, oh yeah, I saw yacht rock. Don't you think they're yacht rock? Come on.
I think the real answer is I want to go to Toto.
Oh, he's selling and going to Toto. All right. Fair enough. Hey, the yacht rock heart wants what it wants.
And that is really what it comes down to, Chad.
Yeah, it really is. What songs do you want to hear pouring out of the band? All right, Catch. And finally, buy or sell number 5. In Landman, Allie Larder is hotter than Demi Moore, and Tommy's daughter is hotter than both of them.
Sell.
Ooh. Okay.
I don't think she's hotter than Demi Moore, but I do think she's hotter than her daughter. I think
that battle.
And I don't remember if this was for you. I may have asked you this question and you weren't able to answer it. I asked you or asked somebody this version of Allie Larder is hotter.
Right.
The Varsity Blues.
Right. At that point, I was unable to answer because I hadn't seen the show yet.
So buy or sell number 1, we'll reverse engineer the buy or sell. We'll go hotter than first.
Okay.
Landman version of Allie Larder, hotter than Varsity Blues version of Allie Larder. So it's literal whipped cream bikini inspiration. I mean, she is the guy. She started it. Like others have done it. It's like it's a thing. But now she's up against, real competition.
Boy, I really could argue this both ways because there's elements, the exact elements exist for each character. I'm going to lean into my wheelhouse and my reputation, and I'm going to say buy. I will buy and take the older version. That has always
with you, and I think I tend to.
Thing, so I will do. But both showed vulnerability. Both would show you the tears, and in a way, both showed you that they're at least a little bit crazy. But I'm going to buy. Yeah, I'm gonna buy because by the end of Landman, yeah, she's really hot. She's really hot, and you've had it more developed than you did in Varsity Blues. The innocence is gone, but that's what adds to the hotness. So it's a buy.
No, look, man. Some women, every person's different. Like, you were meant to be your peak age at different ages. She was meant basically to be one of the greatest cougars of all time. I did not know even 5-10 years ago when Allie Larder would pop up on anything that I would think, oh, you know what? Mid-40s Allie Larder, get the hell out of the way.
Well, in a way, she's got a Diane Lane quality to her. Whatever that is, whatever Diane Lane has pulled off, she pulls it off too. She's never unattractive. She's never not pretty. The young version is incredibly pretty, but then as time goes by, it just gets better. They are bottles of wine. They feel like they get more valuable. They feel like they get more important, and they feel like they're just it's gonna be better. It's gonna add to the meal even more down the line. It's incredible.
We're going 3 hours today.
225 at this point. 225. All right, that was one.
Fire sale number 2. When it comes to great NBA six men, Vinny Microwave Johnson, still number 1 for you.
I will also lean into my old manness and say bye, because anytime you say sixth man, like as a Mavs fan, that championship team had Jason Terry. He's probably my favorite for my team, right? It was a championship team and all that. But for my whole life, absolutely. The Microwave got his nickname because of how good a sixth man he was. Yes, Vinny Johnson, that's the best sixth man. Watching him take down the Celtics was very, very, very much entertaining. Yes.
You know, the good part about my Sixers declining when they did is that they never really caught the Pistons.
No.
And the Pistons, like real.
Right.
Their real heyday.
Yeah, the Celtics had to end up eating that. You guys didn't have to.
So I got to watch the Microwave.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa, glad that's not me.
Yep. And then later, as a Mavs fan, I got to watch Mark Aguirre try to become Microwave Jr. Remember when he showed up?
Yeah.
He tried to do the same thing with him. Yeah.
Buy or sell number 3. If you could have one for one game and one game only, you would rather have an absolute peak in his prime Herschel Walker over an absolute in his prime Tony Dorsett. The absolute best you ever saw either of them.
Oh, wow. Damn. That's a really good one. And I feel like I saw some prime of each. I probably missed whatever prime Tony Dorsett was. I probably just missed it based on my age. Damn.
Yeah, you do have to rely on the highlight tapes from the late 70s and the early 80s a little bit.
And I just love I love Tony Dorsett. I feel like I'm cheating on my guy if I buy this one. Not that, I guess, because for a while Herschel was my guy too.
Herschel should be your guy more than Tony, other than Tony may be the first Cowboy that you ever loved.
Oh yeah, Tony was there, man. Tony's my first Cowboy running back that I really fell in love with. I will go with the added. I'll go with the added power and buy it. That's close though. It's really close, but I'll buy because, man, at his absolute best, I mean, Herschel Walker, everything that was there it had elements of Earl in it. And I can't quite say that about Tony D. So I'm going to lean slightly towards Herschel, but that's a hell of a battle. That's one of the best buy or sells you've ever had.
Buy or sell number 4. If Roger Staubach had been the quarterback of the 90s Cowboys, they would have won the same amount of Super Bowls as Troy Aikman did. 3. No more, no less.
That's interesting.
And the dynamics are essentially the same.
Right. I mean, yeah, I won't dig too far into it. I'll buy that. I'll say it would have ended up being about the same. We could nitpick over this game versus that game. What if it was Roger here, there? Tough to pull a guy like 20 years into the future too, and figure out what that might look like. But I'll buy. I will believe in my heart that 12 would have ended up with exactly what 8 had.
Buy or sell. Number 5. Don't ask me why this question just popped into my head.
He's got that Ed Clements look on his face.
No, it's not. It's not that bad.
Oh, okay.
But it is kind of obscure.
Yeah.
If we were to take your 5 favorite athletes of all time,
Okay.
can you just ring out a couple of them?
What, you want me to list my 5
No,
favorite
I don't.
athletes?
I don't want you. I just want an example of. You don't have to do them in order or anything. I just want to kind of know before I ask the question.
5 of my favorite athletes of all time. Okay, so off the top of my head, like,
Just who's going to be in that discussion?
Ricky Bell, Martina Navratilova, Ed Too Tall Jones.
Okay, we're good. See, I'm so glad I asked. I didn't. Could have given me 20 guesses, and I wouldn't have put Ricky Bell on the list. Okay.
Candace Parker would probably be on my list. She's an all-timer. I love Candace.
Okay.
Okay.
Buy or sell?
Yes.
You could make the 5 your 5 favorite athletes of all time serial killers.
Okay.
They're all serial killers.
All 5 are going to become serial killers. All right.
No, they are serial
They
killers.
are serial killers in their prime.
While they are your favorite athlete.
Okay.
And buy or sell, you don't tip the cops off until after the playing career is over.
Is this all 5 or
Yes.
or individually?
All 5. Like, I just want to know. I want to know. Is there somebody that you're like, no, I would call the cops on him or her, right? Would you call on Candace right away for some reason or not?
Man,
would you not call on her because she's a woman, whereas you're calling on these guys right away? Like, I don't know. It's open for whatever interpretation you want to put on it.
No, I think I might buy. I think it's sick, but I think it's very sick. I think I might buy it. They're my favorite athletes for a reason. By the way, I think I would have added Doug Williams to the list. So if we consider those 5 people, those 3 men, those 2 women, I might be willing to look past it. I might be catch as long as the toll doesn't reach a certain number. I'd have a number. In fact, if they have a jersey number, that's the number. So for Ed Too Tall Jones, as long as he killed less than 72 people, I'm good. I'm not.
So here's the question that I was going to ask. I couldn't spit it out right. Okay. And I don't even know if in telling it to you now, I'm still going to spit it out correctly. It just may be that this was something that was meant to be deformed and to stay deformed forever.
Okay.
But I was going to say buy or sell. Take your 5 favorite athletes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And they are serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the world doesn't know it except for you. You're the only person on earth that knows
that those 5 people are serial killers.
Or they're not serial killers, but you're the only person on earth that knows that.
Wait, hold on. In your second example, are you saying that the rest of the world thinks that they're all serial killers?
Yes. So you are the only person on earth that has the information.
Okay, but I'm not allowed to say it.
No, you
Ever.
are. You are.
Oh, I can. I can stand on a line for all
Do
5
whatever
of
you
them.
want to do. Yes.
Even though you and the rest of the planet will think that Candace Parker has killed multiple people, I'll know that it's not true. Okay. All right. Now I understand.
Now do you know why I had to just go and I had to audible on that question? Because
now we got okay. Now I get your sick game. I'm taking the second version. I want to know the absolute truth that they're not. I want the rest of you to spend your lives telling me why Martina and Ed Too Tall Jones have gone on killing sprees, and I'm going to tell you the whole time you're wrong. They have not killed anyone. It's not true. They're my favorites for a reason. Ricky Bell never killed those people. By the way, God help all y'all in Tampa back then.
Oh, man.
Because if Doug and Ricky Bell were y'all would all be scared to death for like.
See, here's the thing. You would be like, they didn't do anything. And they're like serial killers who just happen to be living 10 minutes from each other.
Yeah.
Really?
Sure, Chad.
Really?
Sure, Chad. Whatever. Candace is one of the best players ever. Oh, she's one of the best something ever. All right. That is one of the weirdest buyer sells you've ever come up with. That's one of the strangest ideas I think you've ever come up with. All your favorites are serial killers, but you do know it or you don't know. Wow. All right. There. Have you been watching one of those documentaries on serial killers? Is that where that came from? Be honest. Have you been watching?
No, I feel like that came from a place, but I don't know where.
All right. Fair enough. By the way, Ketch, before we finish up, since you are one of my favorite multitaskers, I want you to know I've worked with 2 people in my life that I just consider y'all are the best multitaskers I've ever been around. I bought Beyonce tickets during this show. I just want you to know I did pull that off. I've never done that before. I've never bought anything while we are doing a show, but I did today. So there you go. Shout out to me and the Queen Bee. All right. Anything else, Ketch? Now that we've gone 2 hours and 37 minutes. Do you have a long, drawn-out story about serial killers you'd like to tell? No?
The thing is, I could, but I don't.
No? Candace Parker story? Ed Jones? Anybody? No? It's a weird list I came up with. You caught me off guard, and I hit a strange list. I don't know what it says about me that the first 2 names I thought of when you said that were Ricky Bell and Martina Navratilova. What the hell does that say about me? I have no idea. But there you go. All right. Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, especially today. Thank you for liking, subscribing, getting those notifications. Damn near 1,000 of you still in there.
I have a question for you now.
As we're wrapping up, now he's got a question. What do you got?
When I say the name Ed Too Tall Jones,
yes,
I want you can either close your eyes or not close your eyes.
Okay. I'll close my eyes.
But I want you to think about Ed Too Tall Jones sacking somebody.
Yeah.
It's a sack that actually happened in a game.
Okay.
The quarterback in your brain that he's sacking is whom?
Ron Jaworski. Ron Jaworski. For some reason.
Had an old Dallas Cowboys Weekly episode edition that went back that far.
Yeah.
And he's sacking Doug Williams in that
38-0
game.
I can see. Yep. I can see that one too.
And so when I think of Ed, I think of him like tracking down Too Tall. That image is in my head.
By the way, those are 2 of my favorite, just cool, freaky athletes right
there.
That's
why I did that exercise. I thought, man, there's got to be a really good chance that we both think of.
See, when I think of Ed, though, I don't think of Ed crushing other like athletic freaks. I think of him crushing guys that I don't consider to be super freaky athletes, and that's why Jaworski popped in my head. Because I enjoyed watching Ed have success against the Eagles. Also, the first live Cowboys game I ever saw was Cowboys-Eagles. And so it just, that kind of connects in my head.
Randy White was the Eagles destructor from
Yep.
Yeah. If you say Cowboys defensive lineman, Eagles,
you go with the Manster.
I go Manster. Oh
There you
yeah, he did. He did some dirty things. I've got to send you, because I have the exact photo of
cool.
Ed Jones,
Nice.
Doug Williams. I want to send it to you.
Yeah, see, I think it's a photo thing with me too. I think there's a photo somewhere I've seen of Ed hitting Jaworski, and they caught it like midair. And I think they're both off the ground at the time. And I love that picture, and that's what I think that's what I always think of it. All right, thank you all for jumping in. Remember, if you didn't like it on the way in, like it on the way out. Football with Friends starts in like 10 minutes. No, it's not true. Football with Friends is at 6 o'clock this evening.
Yeah, Football with Friends started 10 minutes ago.
Football with Friends, halfway done. Go see them. It's fun as hell. Old Fashioned is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We will be back tomorrow for a Friday show at noon. Who knows what we'll talk about, because who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Oh, by the way, as we wrap up on a Thursday, check out orangebloods.com for the War Room tonight. Last week, we bragged on it and said it was great. What's it going to be like tonight with the Tashard Choice story, with the Coach Orfe story, Jason coming off of, or Jason's headed towards the, Under Armour camp this weekend. So there'll be some recruiting info to get out there as well. Orangebloods.com. Get signed up right now. It's perfect day. Valentine's present to yourself. Get signed up with orangebloods.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.